Every single day, 2.2 billion Coca-Colas are consumed around the world. 2.2 billion in a single day. It is the most recognized brand on the planet. More people can identify that red and white logo than can name their own country's president. It is worth, right now, approximately $260 billion. The man who invented it, who mixed the original formula in a backyard, with a wooden stick, sold his rights to the whole thing for $2,300, and then he died. Broke, penniless, in debt, forgotten. This is not a success story. This is something far more disturbing than that. To understand how this happened, you need to understand who John Pemberton actually was, because history has nearly erased him entirely. Born in 1831, Pemberton wasn't a businessman, wasn't a tycoon, wasn't some Silicon Valley visionary before his time. He was a pharmacist. A quiet, studious man who genuinely believed his job was to heal people. He studied medicine, qualified as a pharmacist, and opened his own practice in Columbus, Georgia. By all accounts, he was good at it, respected in his community, well-liked, a man who spent his days making medicines for his neighbors, normal, modest, and happy. And then came the Civil War, and the Civil War broke everything. Pemberton enlisted as a lieutenant colonel in the Confederate Army. He was wounded, slashed across the chest by a Union soldier's saber at the Battle of Columbus. A vicious wound, a near-fatal wound. The doctors gave him morphine. Of course they did. Morphine was the painkiller of the era, given freely, generously, to virtually every wounded soldier in the Civil War. And like hundreds of thousands of other veterans, John Pemberton became addicted. He returned to pharmacy, returned to his practice, tried to rebuild a normal life. But the morphine owned him now, and every day he needed more of it. Morphine addiction in post-Civil War America was so widespread, it was called the Army disease. Hundreds of thousands of veterans came home hooked, with no treatment and no support. There were no rehab clinics, no methadone programs. The medical establishment essentially shrugged, and so addicted veterans tried to cure themselves with whatever they could find. Pemberton started experimenting, methodically, obsessively, spending his own money, his own time, hunting for a compound that could replace his dependency on Furtimorph. By the 80s, he had relocated to Atlanta, Georgia. He'd heard about two substances being celebrated in scientific circles. The first was cocaine, extracted from the coca leaf. The second was cola nut packed with caffeine. This is 1885. Cocaine was not a street drug. It was a legitimate pharmaceutical compound, praised by Sigmund Freud, sold legally in pharmacies across America and Europe. It was in toothache drops. It was in wine. It was in throat lozenges. Pemberton had read the research. Cocaine, he believed, could substitute for morphine. He wasn't trying to create a recreational drug. He was trying to cure himself. Spring 1886. Atlanta, Georgia. In the backyard of his house on Marietta Street, John Pemberton set up a brass kettle over an open fire. He was 54 years old. He was sick. He was in debt. And he was about to mix a syrup that would one day conquer the world. His formula included extracts of coca leaf, cola nut for caffeine, caramel for color, essential oils, citric acid, the exact combination. Pemberton took those to his grave. What he created was a thick, sweet, intensely flavored syrup. He tasted it. He adjusted it. He tasted it again. It had something. A complexity, a depth, something that made you want more. He called it Pemberton's French wine coca. He would sell it at pharmacies as a cure for morphine addiction, headaches, and neurasthenia. There was just one problem. Atlanta was going dry. Fulton County was about to vote to ban alcohol entirely. Pemberton's French wine coca had wine in it. His product was about to become illegal before it had even found its market. He had to go back to that brass kettle, start again, remove the wine, find something, anything to replace it with. And what replaced it might have been a complete accident. An employee at Jacob's Pharmacy in Atlanta accidentally mixed the syrup with carbonated water instead of plain water. The customer liked it. Word spread. The accidental fizz was born. The accidental fizz. The blueprint for $260 billion, discovered because someone grabbed the wrong tap. May 8, 1886. The first time Coca-Cola was sold to the public. At Jacob's Pharmacy, at the corner of Peachtree and Marietta Streets in Atlanta. 5 cents a glass. It was Pemberton's bookkeeper, a man named Frank Mason Robinson, who would give it the name that conquered the world. He suggested combining the two key ingredients, the coca leaf and the cola nut, into a single name. Coca-Cola. Two hard C sounds that work in almost every language on Earth. That sweeping cursive Coca-Cola script you've seen 10,000 times. That is Frank Robinson's own handwriting. The most reproduced signature in human history, and most people have never heard his name. The first year, Pemberton sold 9 glasses of Coca-Cola per day. His entire annual profit from the formula in 1886 was around $50. His development costs had been over $70. He was losing money on the greatest invention of his life. And somewhere, in the background of all of this, a man named Asa Griggs Candler was watching. Asa Griggs Candler was sharp, strategic, and completely unsentimental about other people's misfortune. He tasted Coca-Cola. He believed in it, not as a medicine, but as a product, a drink people would buy simply because they enjoyed it. Candler began approaching Pemberton, casually at first, then with increasing persistence. He wanted to buy the formula, and Pemberton, desperate for money, desperately ill, was weakening. In 1888, Pemberton sold a 2/3 share of the business for approximately $1,750. Then he sold the remaining third for $550 to Asa Candler. Total received for the entire Coca-Cola formula and business, approximately $2,300. His son Charlie later claimed that his father, in the fog of addiction and illness, had been deliberately deceived, that they moved quickly and deliberately while he was at his absolute weakest. Was it deception? Was it business, with a morphine-addicted dying man on one side and sharp-eyed businessmen on the other? That line is uncomfortably thin. On the 16th of August, 1888, John Pemberton died in Atlanta, in poverty, from stomach cancer, compounded by decades of morphine addiction. He was 57 years old. His estate showed debts that exceeded his assets. He owned almost nothing. The formula was already in someone else's hands legally, completely, irrevocably. There is evidence that in the final months of his life, Pemberton tried to buy back the formula. He tried to raise money. He tried to negotiate. He tried to undo it, but Asa Candler had no interest in returning what had been legally purchased. The deal was done. He never saw a Coca-Cola advertisement, never saw a Coke bottle with his formula inside it. He never saw any of it become what it became. John Pemberton invented something that has outlived him by 136 years, and is still growing. He died without knowing. That might be the only mercy in this entire story. Asa Candler incorporated the Coca-Cola Company, trademarked the name, and launched a marketing campaign unlike anything the American South had ever seen. His first genius move, he didn't sell Coca-Cola. He gave it away. He distributed free drink coupons across America. If people tasted it, he believed they'd pay for it next time. He was right. By 1895, Coca-Cola was being sold in every U.S. state and territory. 9 years from backyard experiment to national dominance. Then came the contour bottle, introduced in 1915. The brief to the designers: create a bottle so distinctive you could identify it in complete darkness, by touch alone, even if it were broken on the ground. By 1919, Candler sold the Coca-Cola Company for $25 million, from a formula he had purchased for $2,300 in 31 years. Pemberton took his original recipe to his grave. And Coca-Cola has spent 136 years making absolutely sure nobody else finds it. The formula, known internally as Merchandise 7X, is stored in a purpose-built vault at the World of Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta. 2 senior executives must be physically present simultaneously to open it. No single person on Earth knows the complete formula. The secret is protected not by patent. A patent expires after 20 years. But by trade secret law, Candler made this decision deliberately. Patents expire. Trade secrets last forever. In 2011, a radio program claimed to have found the original formula, handwritten, in a photograph of a 1979 newspaper column. Coca-Cola denied it, but they didn't say what was wrong with it. The most accepted version of the formula includes caramel, caffeine, phosphoric acid, coca leaf extract, cola nut extract, vanilla, and a mysterious component called 7X. What is in 7X? Coca-Cola will not say. The cocaine question, because you are asking it, was resolved around 1903. By then the public had grown alarmed about cocaine, and Coca-Cola quietly switched to decoconized coca leaf extract. There is still coca leaf in your Coca-Cola. It has simply had the cocaine removed first, in a process that only one single company in the entire United States is licensed to perform. Somewhere in the world right now, coca leaves are being processed specifically for Coca-Cola, legally, quietly, every single day. By the 20th century, Coca-Cola wasn't just a drink, it was a weapon, deployed in wars, courtrooms, and boardrooms with equal ferocity. World War II. The US military asked Coca-Cola to guarantee that every American soldier, wherever in the world they were fighting, could get a Coke for 5 cents. The company built 64 bottling plants in active war zones. They followed the army into North Africa, Europe, the Pacific. When American soldiers arrived, Coca-Cola arrived with them. In post-war Europe and Japan, American soldiers introduced Coca-Cola to populations who had never tasted it. Within a generation, it was native everywhere. The most effective cultural ambassador the United States ever deployed wasn't a diplomat. It was a bottle with a red label. The Soviet Union hated Coca-Cola, officially ideologically. It was the enemy, the liquid symbol of American capitalism. But here is what actually happened behind closed doors. In 1948, Soviet Marshal Georgy Zhukov, decorated war hero, celebrated commander, tasted Coca-Cola at a social event and loved it. Immediately, he couldn't be seen drinking it publicly. Too embarrassing for a Soviet hero. So Coca-Cola produced a special clear version just for Zhukov, bottled with a white cap and a red star, so it looked like water or plain soda. He drank it in secret for years. Then there was India, which actually expelled Coca-Cola in 1977. Told the company to leave because it refused to reveal its formula to the Indian government. Coca-Cola packed up and left, entirely. Rather than share the recipe, India was without Coca-Cola for 16 years. The company returned in 1993. India blinked first. In 2004, a neuroscientist named Reed Montague ran a study that has since become one of the most cited experiments in consumer science. He put people in an MRI scanner and gave them Coca-Cola and Pepsi in completely blind tests. No logos, no branding, no labels. Pepsi consistently activated stronger responses in the brain's reward centers. Pepsi was objectively, neurologically, more pleasurable to taste. Then they repeated the test, but this time told participants which drink was which. Coca-Cola's brain response completely changed. The memory regions lit up. The cultural association regions lit up. The identity regions lit up. Knowing it was Coke, literally measurably, made it taste better to the brain. What Pemberton accidentally invented, and what Candler deliberately built, was a product that embedded itself so deeply in human culture that the brand itself became a flavor enhancer. You don't just taste Coca-Cola. You taste Coca-Cola plus every memory you have of drinking it, plus every advertisement you've absorbed, plus every emotional association you've collected over a lifetime. There is one more person in this story who deserves to be named. Charlie Pemberton, John's son. Charlie had watched his father's descent. He'd seen the addiction, the poverty, the desperate sales, And then his father died, leaving almost nothing. Charlie was consumed by bitterness, and by the conviction that his father had been swindled. He tried to reclaim the Coca Cola name, arguing in legal filings that his father hadn't properly transferred all rights. Asa Candler moved swiftly and legally to neutralize the claim. He paid Charlie a settlement, some accounts say as little as $300, to drop his challenge and sign away any remaining family interest in the formula. The Pemberton family's connection to Coca-Cola ended in a second meager payment. Charlie spiraled. He fell into alcoholism and opium addiction, the same demons that had destroyed his father. He died in 1894. He was 40 years old. Two Pembertons, father and son, both involved in creating the formula, both addicted, both dead young, both buried with nothing from the thing that bears their family's ingredient in its very name. Today, the Coca-Cola Company operates in nearly every country on Earth. Hundreds of beverage brands under its umbrella. An empire so vast that describing its scale is almost meaningless. In 1979, a bronze plaque was placed at the site of Jacob's Pharmacy where Coca-Cola was first sold. It acknowledges Pemberton. It is approximately the size of a laptop screen, a small rectangle of bronze, in exchange for a $260 billion legacy. Was Pemberton a tragic figure? Undeniably. A genius? Arguably. A victim? Probably. But there is something else too. A reminder about the distance between invention and reward. Between making something and keeping it. At the center of all of it, under the vaults, and the $260 billion, is a formula for a syrup that a morphine-addicted pharmacist from Georgia stirred with a wooden oar in a backyard kettle in 1886, trying to cure himself, trying to survive.